So we don't love sex, we lust sex. The reason we lusted is because of traumas that I've explained, including the trauma of people being tied to souls that they would wake up and sleeping with.
Yeah.
Right. So we've made it dirty. So when you fear something, it will keep on chasing you like a skeleton in the closet. So we've made to be fear. It's made to be taboo. Even women orgasm has been tabooed. When you look at people who saying, oh, for example, I'm a squirter, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's actually urine. It's not urine. It's your body coming into a joyous moment. Sex is a ceremony.
As far as the North Pole is from the South, we are bridging the knowledge gap from centuries past. We inspire you to find your true north. From Timbuktu to Alexandria, from the city of Johannesburg to New York, from the Zulus to the Dogon people, we are disrupting the knowledge economy. We are Sir Max Network.
One of the greatest assets you can ever have is teachability. A teachable spirit will always give you success in almost anything that you are doing. It doesn't matter how talented, how gifted you are. Without a teachable spirit, you will not go far. Very often talented people are tempted to think that they know it all. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Teachability is more about aptitude and not about attitude. It is the desire to listen, to learn, and to apply. It is the wisdom to be guided. It is the humility to serve. It is the willingness to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn again. Because learners become leaders. But the number one hindrance to teachability is pride. Pride closes our minds to new ideas. Pride closes our minds to feedback. Pride prevents us from accepting our mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's such a great honor and so much gratitude in my heart that I get to welcome one of the most amazing human beings that I came across. She's a highly celebrated healer, Sangoma. She's a facilitator, a life coach, and a teacher. At the core of her work is actually teaching. One of the few people who have been able to fuse modern thinking into spiritual healing. Gogo Dineo, welcome to Sir Max Network.
That was what a wow introduction.
Thank you very much, Gogo. You're looking so amazing.
Because I feel amazing. I think we underestimate what people feel inside of them and how it shows they wear it. We wear our feelings all the time. We don't have to speak them all the time. It shows, so I think it's the inner work. It's the internal that is clearer, that is lighter, that is radiating through me. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you been intentional lately not to appear that much on media? Have you taken that stance, or it's about choosing platforms carefully?
I think it's both. Intentionality means that you make wiser choices.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that actually I feel like I'm doing more media work. I just have not been out there in public functions and events. But the media work that I do, I've always been quite conscious. Yeah. I don't just take things because they present it to me and they look exciting. Yeah. I'm like, what is this gonna serve? How is it gonna create impact? Not how is it gonna be popular? So I've never been about popularism because it fades, but impact is it's long lasting, and that's how we build legacies. Because being impactful means being unpopular sometimes. So I've been out there. I've just been quite wary of how much I give of myself. And if they come and ask me, come and explain something that I've already done a lot of work around it, I become quite wary of it. The whole thing of like, there has to be an element, a nuance that has not been touched on. I think as a student of life, as you spoke about so well and eloquently about, having a learning spirit, because as I teach, I learn, because as a vessel of knowledge, as a custodian of our ancestors' encyclopedia. So as I come and I get a question and I'm asked a question, the answers that come sometimes are new to me.
Yeah.
So I sit here both as a teacher and as a student. So if I feel like I'm repeating a lesson, it means there's no growth, you know? So the minute I grow from something, because remember, cycles repeat themselves because we've not learned the lessons.
Yeah.
So they stop once we've learned the lessons. So when there's new lessons to be learned, that's what really excites me, like today's topic.
Thank you very much. You are a groundbreaking Sangoma in South Africa, because you have inspired so many people to embrace who they are, to embrace their calling. But lately, bizarre things have been happening in the space where some Sangomas are saying they're resigning. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like we said, I mean, when we seek popularism, we'll do anything that will feed off that popularism. Even Ubungoma, what it was turning out to be was just we were chasing the fame. We were chasing to be popular and would do whatever it takes to trend. So even the resignation is like you applied for it. You know, you applied for it, but there's truth into it. You can say no, because for me, resignation is saying no, but the no is saying no to the essence of who you are, because the assumption is that you are called by the ancestors, but the ancestors actually assigned to you at birth or during conception or during the whole process of your incarnation, to help you with the journey ahead. The calling is yours. So the calling is part of the engine of your car. So if you denounce the engine of your car, it means you're going to start not to function. But we must also understand that it is easy for people to walk away from something that was not truly theirs to begin with. Once you know something is yours, once you know that, you know, Ubungoma is it's an incremental part of Dineo before Gogo Dineo, right? Ubungoma is the medicine that has healed so many aspects of Dineo and unraveled wounds, you know, that I never thought they even existed, or I thought that they were buried, that required me to continuously heal. You know, it's an art of healing. So if you are called to become the artist, right, the healer into it, if part of it is that, and if you say I'm resigning from it, you must be clear that you're resigning from something that is an essence of who you are. So we are given sovereignty, and I think that's what people must understand. It's the same when you say to somebody you've got a spiritual calling, and people say, but can I say no to it? I'm like, that's why you're here. Spiritual callings is the essence of why we landed on earth. So the assumption though is that everybody who has a calling, because the symptoms of callings are similar, because you have to go through what we call a falling apart to fall into place. Once we incarnate, we start to assimilate to the human experiences, then we don't recall why we are here. So suffering is an awakening. So the problem is that we think because we are called, we all fall under the same box. That's why it's easy for one to wake up and walk away, you know, to say, I don't want this anymore. It's probably maybe that was not your call. That spiritual calling was not yours. To follow, it seems like the one, because at the time of your need of healing or reconciliation of what has fallen apart, Ubungoma was presented to you. So I just say, let people be, but let's also be wary of what we actually feed ourselves as people being. I think it becomes irresponsible when you are a person that is being looked up to, you know, to wake up and be impulsive around your decisions and want people to just follow through, because there's many people who are looking up to you or who are inspired by you. So if I wake up to tomorrow and say I'm no longer Sangoma, then there must be a story. There must be some sort of accountability to the decision that I'm making. What I'm noticing though with people waking up and saying, I don't want this, I'm not a Sangoma anymore, I'm not a pastor anymore, is when they are caught in the middle of a mess and they need to account and take responsibility for part of the mess. So instead of really sitting there and accepting and acknowledging your part in the mess, I just would withdraw, you know, because it's also a trauma response. When things become overwhelming, we disassociate, we move away from our human nature, we move away from our animalistic nature, we become reptilians. So we retreat into a rock, we retreat into something else, rather than dealing with the difficult, rather than confronting the difficult.
We've called you to the show, Gogo Dineo, to talk about what arguably is the most powerful energy in human existence.
Yeah.
To talk about sex.
Yeah.
But sex, not just at the physical level, at the highest level of super consciousness.
Yeah.
Sex sells today. Everyone is talking about sex. It's the center of everything that we do. Some have denounced it.
Yeah.
Some have described it in any other way.
Yeah.
But the truth is, sex is a major influence in our lives. So I want us to talk about the sacredness of this energy.
Yeah.
How we should understand it. It's the sacredness, but also the spirituality, and how this energy have impact and influence in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct. I mean, sex is creator, right? It's a form of creation. Me and you are sitting here being able to exist because that act occurred, and then we came into being. So human beings are born through an act of sex. And because of it's so powerful, and we understand that it creates, you know, we move into what I can say, the domineering human mind, which is either we demonize it or we over, glorify it. And then we miss the whole sacredness of sex, because we just then make sex just a physical thing. It's a coming of two bodies and making a baby, but we don't realize that it's actually a coming of two souls. It's a coming of two minds. It's a coming of two hearts. And the coming of two hearts is not about, oh, I fell in love, but there's all parts of you come during that sacred act. Human beings are not just physical, they are emotional, they are mental, they are spiritual, and they are also soul, because spirit and soul are not the same thing. So when you engage in an act of sex, all of you is engaged, not just the body. So when somebody's like, it was just a quickie, that quickie can mean an incurable biological illness, but it can also mean an incurable spiritual illness. So we need to understand that it's our whole entirety that engages in that act. And that's why sexual violation, it's one of the most horrific traumas that an individual can undergo through. That's why when it happens in the family with somebody who's meant to protect you as a child, it could actually be, it tempers not only with your wellness or your well-being, but it tempers with your destiny. That's why what we call aggregor spirits or siphoning spirits or vampire spirits would use that force, that energy force, to temper with people's destinies. People are like, I'm not getting where I need to get to. My life is not thriving. But who have you given your energy source to? Who have you shared it, or who stole it from you?
So there are no casual sex. There's no casual sex.
Human beings made it casual. Right. But divinity understood. That's why there were attempts at rules and regulations around when and how and who should and who should not have, because it's such a powerful, it's creator energy. So can you imagine giving a 7-year-old the power to be God of nations? What will that be? They don't have,
distraction.
I mean, their frontal lobe is not, developed. The frontal cortex is the brain, part of the brain that's responsible for reason. So they don't have the reasoning capacity to create responsibly. They don't have the experience to be able to discern, what is worthy of me to engage in. So some of the rules of like children are not meant to do that, is because children are meant to explore. Children are meant to engage with the world before they can have a framework of what the world is, before they can have a framework of what is their part, what is their role coming onto earth, and what are the functions that they need to play, and how do they carry out their destiny. So we make it casual because we don't understand that sex is also a pacifier, because it's a lot of people who engage in sex, some of them are not even aware that it's an addiction because of what it's able to release. I mean, you get dopamine, you get oxytocin from engaging in sex. So for somebody who's had trauma, when they can engage in that casually and they get those those stress hormones release and they feel some sort of relief from engaging in sex, then they will start to consume it more and want to consume it more. But they're not realizing it that those things release, what else is being taken out of their system that makes things far worse than they were before they had the casual sex.
Many times when people get in relationships, they talk about compatibility.
Yeah.
They'll even talk on a lighter note or on a just surface level of sexual compatibility. How significant is sexual compatibility at a spiritual level, at an energy level, to make sure that the vibrations and the frequencies actually match? Even before these people, either they get in a relationship, they get married, they get committed with each other.
Sexual, compatibility is spiritual compatibility, because sex is spirit. So that's the highest form, because remember, we are spiritual beings. So that is the essence of who you are before you're a man, before you are black, before you are Mosotho, before you are Motswana, before you're a pastor, before you are the roles. You are God.
Sexual compatibility, spiritual. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are God. So the minute you engage in sex, you give part of your godliness to another person. So before you even engage into sex, there are other things that you must see if there is compatibility. Do you have the same values and principles? And these have nothing to do with religion or cultural backgrounds. Is the person empathetic? Do they have compassion? Do you share the same ideas around how to treat human beings and how to treat each other? So those things are the foundations and the fundamentals. But remember, human beings are visuals. So we consume first with our eyes before we consume first with our soul.
Yeah.
And when we've been through, and this is something that we don't speak enough about as Africans, as Black people, is trauma. When we've been through generational trauma, which religion calls generational curses, we have what we call the Black race trauma. So we come from a generation of ancestors who have been enslaved, who've been colonized, who've been apartheidized. So do you see those layers?
Yeah.
So there's all of those things. So in trauma, our brain rewires. It stops seeking connection. It gets stuck into protection, because that is the function of the brain. So even when you are in sexual relations, sometimes what you think you are engaging as a need, it's actually what just feels familiar. So you'd find that people would want to be in sexual relationships that emulate a chaotic childhood experience. And they're thinking that, we are compatible. But it's actually your wounded inner child in an adult body seeking a woman who looks in a particular way because they're seeking for a mother. Because sex nurtures, but sex also protects. Sex provides, but sex also loves, because that's God energy. So when we are not clear in ourselves, we will fall for demons who are wearing angel masks, and we get amazed. Why is my life collapsing? Or why do people leave when I start engaging with them sexually? Because you were actually in relationships with demons who just came and got what they want. You find that people get into sexual relationships, and the minute I sleep with this person, or I'm in a relationship with a particular person, my things just get stuck. Things just get blocked out, but they start to shine. They start to shine. And this is what people don't understand about pedophilia. And we look at it as just a gruesome act. But actually, these are what we call agents of the fallen angels, or the dark side of the world, the egregore spirits. The angels that were, the fallen angels that were assigned to collapse the African mission, that they would target the purity and the innocence of a child. Because the purity and innocence of us, we are vibrating at pure God's energy frequency. So when somebody comes and assaults a child, and say they find pleasure. In America, I don't know if this currently is an organization called, the National Organization of Men Who Love Boys. What they do, those people, is that they use the energy, that God's energy, to accelerate and progress their own material accumulation. So we think, no, but this would be someone dying, they will be slaughtering all the time. No. these people who you find in your fine dining areas, you find them in your expensive clubs and expensive restaurants, those who look nice and look well off, when they are, demonic forces, they would then target pure energy frequencies in children, but they will also target it in a grouping of people that vibrates very highly. Africans, in our nature, we are godly. That's why forgiveness becomes quite easy. That's why even now we've gotten over things that we're actually not supposed to get over until people take accountability for it. That's why even when somebody does wrong, you can say, okay, we can still sit around the same. We sit with Judases all the time around the table. We forgive easily because there's a high frequency of God energy in us as the melanated people. I mean, if you look at the Bible and you hear how God speaks about, the children of Enoch, which is a Nubian. Nubian is us, the dark skin, the children of Ethiopia. Ethiopia not being a country, but Ethiopia being those who have been sun-kissed, melanated people, right? So when you look at those things and then you look at a lot of violence that happens amongst black families, what is that? It's distorting. That is to distort us from the destiny that is keeping us still in the slave mentality, that is keeping us at the bottom of the barrel. When you see the black man, it's not our nature to be raping women and to be assaulting children. We learned it because it's a learned behavior that distorted the sexual energy. Black men knew how to harness their own energy, but right now black men are celebrated for having multiple sexual partners, and you see that actually they move. If you look in the history of our time, how many men collapse because of irresponsible usage of their sexual energy.
You're talking about sexual traumas with which we don't talk about only unless when we talk about sexual violation. Sexual violation, clear, we know how it disrupts and wounds your sacral chakra, which is your sexual chakra. But also as you grow, there could be sexual traumas that you have incurred without necessarily violation, either through observation, through behavior, through being shamed, through self-esteem. Because it's the energy that when you exchange with somebody else, you are bringing actually that energy. You meet people today, Gogo Dineo, in their adulthood who say, I've never experienced the highest level of sexual ecstasy. That I still feel that this is sin. I suppressed and compressed. But this says it comes from all the traumas that we do not deal with them when we talk about sex.
Yeah, I mean, religion is one of the driving forces of that kind of sexual trauma, where we must suppress, because in that state, that's when we reach the high state of consciousness, especially for women, especially for women, because a lot of women struggle to reach orgasm, and the reason they do is because they're not present in their bodies. When you are present in your body, you would know how to reach to that state of consciousness. It's not we've made roles identities. It's a man's job to please a woman. Therefore, the man identity is around how much pleasure they can give another. That's why they will move from one relationship to the other, because they need to prove that they are capable, that they are men enough, that they are good enough in their essence. And we have celebrated sexual promiscuity, because when we can celebrate it, and those forces, I was actually listening to a podcast on my way here to say, we are dealing with spiritual forces that are not only, it's not about attacking us in the physical, but at higher consciousness, where they can infiltrate how we think, how we feel, and we think it's just coincidences, but these are intentional, because the more we are kept trapped in the box, the more we can't self-realize and self-actualize. The God in us is suppressed. And when the God is in us is suppressed, we start worshipping others as God. We start worshipping. I said sex is a highest form. It's spiritual. It's where you enter your God state. But when you worship it outside of yourself, you'll keep on seeking it in other bodies.
It becomes an addiction. Let's talk about soul ties. I'm sure you deal a lot with that, in your practice.
Yeah.
Can you please expand on the gravity of soul ties, how they work? And you've just made an example of somebody says, and sometimes they don't know until they consult, to say, since this person came into my life, we've exchanged energies, my things are stuck, or there's just blockage, or since I met this person, I just get to flourish. Please talk to us about soul ties.
So soul ties is actually what psychology calls trauma bond. We are bonded by a similar wound. And when you are bonded by a similar wound, and you find that whom you are bonded to is a vampire. This is people who are controlling, who are manipulative and distorting. What happens, your unhealed self has found something familiar in that person, even though that's not what you need.
Yeah.
You need safety, because trauma bonding is very unsafe. It's the highs and the lows. You find it in relationships where you don't see each other, but when you meet, you've got like this big, like you guys, you don't understand. They call it stigmatized. I got so stigmatized, but you don't understand that actually you are trauma bonded to that person, which trauma is, it sits in your nervous system, right? That's your soul. So that's what we mean by soul ties. There's people you could have sexual engagements with and nothing gets tied to you, right? But there's somebody you sleep with once you can't forget. And then they start appearing in your dreams and you start stalking them and you're like, oh, you don't understand. They come in my dreams and I see them and we don't together to the other ancestors saying is the one. I'm like, no, they are saying what is similar to this person that actually is reenacting a chaotic childhood. Because no relationship is healthy when it's got highs and lows. Highs and lows is what keeps us hooked and keeps us addicted, right? There are soul ties though that are that would happen to us done by our loved ones, including our parents at a young age, where children are tied to a particular dark energy force to keep the child trapped in the family, so that whatever that child, accumulates, it feeds the individuals in the family. I mean, it go Batswana ba tlo re bana ba Batswana ga ba nyale because ba berekela ko gae le ke mopedi na batho ba nna ke nyaka monna mopedi. We don't understand that there were things that were done to tie that, because remember, the soul is what needs to recall and action your destiny, right? The spirit is connected but not attached to you. So your spirit is, some people call it the higher self, your God version self. That is the pure essence of you. Communicates to the soul, not directly to you, to your soul. So when your soul is caged and it's caged by the experiences that have unhealed you. So what we call unhealed traumas that are caged, they're called miasmas. It's frozen traumas. And people think that, I've only come here. No, you've come here probably several times. This is not your first lifetime of incarnation. So we've come over and over again. So there's other experiences. It also keeps a Akashic record. So that, this is the memories not only of your childhood, but the memories of your ancestors, the women in your family. Those memories are kept in those records. I mean, science now has actually proved that children are born carrying part of their mother's nervous system. So if you had a mother who suffered from anxiety, you would likely have anxiety as well, because we are energy beings. So energy means what? It transfers quite easily. So those ties, when they happen through that act, but even though it's consented, but they happen mostly in unconsented, because when you don't consent, it's violently taken away from you. The same way I would say we are so soul tied. We are Africans, black people in particular, so tied to whiteness. There's a soul tie we have towards whiteness, and that's why we will defend the culture in its entirety. And when I mean by culture, I don't mean people. I mean a way of being, right? I mean, look at we how many years later it's a struggle to find a language that all of us who are melanated can speak and understand.
Let's talk about the collection of sexual energies.
Yeah.
How it influences us. Sometimes you are not aware, but you are collecting because you are meeting different types of sexual energies, is it possible that they can stack up in you and they influence who you are?
I once saw an image that actually showed a graphic, stacking up of energies, where it was like skull after skull after skull after skull after
Yeah,
skull.
I think I've
So
seen that
meaning
before.
that everyone you sleep with, you don't only sleep with them, you sleep with their demons, you sleep with their crimes, you sleep with everything else that they come with. And because women, remember, God the Father is the conceptualizer, is the architecture, but the deliverer is the womb. So the deliverer is a womb. So then it would be like you want to glorify men who are having multiple partners, but what kind of womb are your seeds landing into?
Yeah.
And you think it's about fertilization of childbearing, but it's also fertilization of life-bearing things. So every womb you enter, if it's polluted and contaminated, it's going to contaminate your sperm. And your sperm is a source of life. So to women, every water you allow into your sacred space, which is your womb, it's going to contaminate your waters of creation. So if you would look at the energies together, you'll say the men, they carry the air and the fire energy in sex, and the woman, they would carry the water and the air, right? That's why it is fire, water, air, and there's other things. But when we're speaking about anchor, when we speak about stability, we speak about the four corners. So when you are accumulating everywhere and everywhere, there is instability that's gonna occur.
And there are people, Gogo Dineo, you have sex with this person, and after that, you feel horrible. You feel, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You feel, is that also related to the energies that we are exchanging?
Yeah. Maybe by lawyer Kochabo and Buffett lawyer last night. Maybe this person just killed someone. This person just raped someone. This person just had an abortion, a termination, and then you go in. Remember, in our culture, would even have restrictions, like where you don't sleep with a woman when they're on their periods. You won't sleep with a person who has just lost their loved one. And then in intimate relationships, right?
Yes.
We thought this was the demonization of things, but we don't understand that when you are sleeping, for example, with somebody who's just lost a loved one, that loved one is attached to them. So some part of them is dead. So we're not You understand?
Yeah, I get it.
So
Yeah,
part of them is dead.
Yeah.
Because the reason we go through mourning as Africans is to restore ourselves from that which is dead. We give us a period of release, of let go and let come. We've also missed these processes. We don't do cleansing rituals like we used to do. And those cleansing rituals were to transition, because a ritual is to change and alter the state of something. It's from one state of being to the other state of being. So when you're sleeping with this person, or let's say Gogo Dineo, for example, as sangomas, we're not allowed to be in long mourning processes. So after there's rituals that we need to perform so we can restore, because remember, we are light bearers. So mourning is a time of dark. It's a time of the cloud is hovering there. It's not that you are dark or you're dirty, but you're going through that. So as healers, our energy must always transmute quite quickly. We need to remain in the light frequencies, because when we are in the dark for too long, this opens the portal where all these other unwanted energies can come through. So even when people say, no, but now I'm straight, I'm doing things the right way, why am I getting all these witchcrafts or these attacks or these things? Hey, who are you sleeping with? Who are you giving? Because you open the portal. Remember, when you are having sex with someone, you are being vulnerable. You are letting go of all of you and giving the essence of who you are. And that's why some people, we spoke about sexual compatibility, where it's like, I don't know, man, there's nothing, they did everything right, but something didn't feel feeling. There is enjoyment, which is where somebody comes and there's a physical pleasure. But fulfillment is the soul coming alive during that intercourse.
Let's talk about cleansing, sexual cleansing in particular. How significant it is to cleanse your sexual energy. And how can we do it, and how often?
I become wary of just, saying go do this and this, because we don't really deal with the sexual disease.
Yeah.
We don't deal with the consumption of sex, because we sometimes then encourage people who says, okay, it's fine, I had gogo. Yes, because I'm in my whoring phase. I had somebody once say I'm in my whoring phase, and we don't understand that whoring phase, it's a trauma response, because when you were violated at a young age, it has sexualized you.
Yeah.
So the need to always be whoring, it's because it's that child that was sexualized, that was told that they were beautiful only when they were being, sexually stimulated.
Yeah.
So you were sexualized. So when I say to you, you can cleanse it. One is, you don't just, one simple thing. Let's say you wake up and you feel like, this person that I slept with, and there was that thing, like, I want to do this, and as an adult, I'm consenting. So some cost salt is powerful, because it's sea, it's from the sea, and we know, the power of the ocean as a cleanser, a releaser, and an energizer.
Bath.
So bath with the, even pepper as medicine, not as an incense to connect with our ancestors, but as an antifungal, antibacterial, to release the energy frequency of that person. However, the same way with anything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a fitness junkie or fitness freak.
Yeah, you're a fitness freak at this moment.
Yes. There's where your body stops giving you the results, because the body assimilates itself, and it becomes quite familiar, like, oh, I know that, I forgot the term in weight loss, where you hit a dead, like you can't lose the weight anymore, and then they'll say change the system the way around. So the same thing, you can't always use kosol, and because you are DIYing, you are doing it yourself. You don't know the extensity of the spiritual illness that you might have contracted, that even cost salt alone is not enough. You might need to do a whole full ritual. For some people, there's goats and chickens that needs to be slaughtered, to really purify. And I've learned to say, do not just purify your body, purify your need to give up your sacred self to everyone and anyone who comes as a knight shining armor, or who comes as a queen on the throne.
Yeah. Let's talk about condoms, Gogo Dineo. There's this belief that condoms prevents exchange of energies. And in many ways, some people will say, no, I can have sex with her on her period. As long as we are using condoms. What's the understanding at that highest level of consciousness?
I want to speak about the demonization of periods. Because that is anchored in the demonization of women. That's a Western patriarchal religious construct of periods, and then I'm going to place it in African knowledge and why women had to step back when they were
Please do
periods.
that.
And then let's speak about the condoms, right? We think plastic is far greater than God. I'm asking you.
No way.
If we say
no way.
Sex energy is expression of God's self, so plastic is no barrier. Right? Plastic is no barrier. So the transference of energy will still occur, condom or no condom, ejaculation or no ejaculation.
And not just through ejaculation. It happens.
In the energy, the fact that
energy field.
The first thing, the stimulation on its own. When you get stimulated, there's an energy transference, and this is why children take responsibility or blame for being violated, especially boys, because they even ejaculate during penetration and they think, oh, I wanted it. Oh, what does that make me? It makes me gay now. It makes that. No, your body responded to stimulation. Your body, but then it felt wrong in your soul. Therefore, it is wrong. And then you have an adult who's whispering things in your ear. All of that is energy transference.
Then there's an energy field.
There's an energy field that's been created. That's why if the energy field is not there during consented sex, one of you be like, no. I walked away from a one night stand. This is before I became Gogo. I was like, okay, I'm not having that penis. Thank you very much. And and the guy was like, oh, Mara, I haven't had one. I'm like, hey brother, that hot one must sit down. I'm walking out. And I literally walked away. Right? There's been several moments where you would think you're having I'm having protected sex, and then my spirit says, no, look. And when you're like, I went, what happened to the condom? Like, that was the end of the relationship. So do you see that before even your spirit is awake, you are opening your gates of heaven. You're opening the highest portal ever.
The Holy of Holies.
Yeah, the holies of holies. Remember, this body is the temple. And in the temple resides the holies of holies. It's sacred. So the minute you open, you start undressing, you are opening your temple. So as you open your temple, if you are not present within your spirit and you are chasing a need for physical fulfillment, you will always finding yourself sleeping with demons. Because they target people like that. They target those who are unconscious of themselves. And why are we unconscious? We shut out because we've experienced things that we don't want to remember. And when we don't want to remember, it also sometimes tempers and mutes our intuition. So when you feeling like, oh, there was one where I actually felt, and I could see things happening, like things that I've never really, the first barking, HaaK. And I was a Sangoma, by the way, when that happened. But I remember something like, oh, Dineo, I feel all sorts of things, but something I went, and then the minute, you see, just the undressing, something felt off. Then when the kissing happened, my mouth dried up. Completely dried up. Right? And I went to the bathroom. And I was like, sure, but I was trying to be a rebel. I was wanting to be a naughty one. That's an affair I had. Then immediately after that, few months, I had a dream about what was happening. And I told the guy, like, hey, when I 1, 2, 3, 4. And the soul tie that came from that relationship to a point where I wanted to leave my marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, because and so I don't teach of things I hear. Some of these things I've experienced personally. So soul ties are real. I was tied to that guy. Because I was like, okay, if this is the ancestors that want this, because that's what Khanshalo Chilo Johalan, he told me things that really I didn't know existed. I mean, I'm Garanga Queen today because that guy opened the lineage of my ancestors that I didn't know existed. And my mom was like, ooh, Kimang, this guy. Yes, there's this person and this person and this person, right? So some souls are brought to us to awaken us. Remember earlier when I spoke about suffering as an awakening? So, but in that awakening, we are cautioned of the dangers. But because the flesh seeks pleasure, when the soul tries to intercede, because spirit says, hey, yeah, Ratsiba Ordino, you are awakening to Garanga Queen, but this is a vampire. You can still awaken without going through this horrific vampire energy frequency. But what does the body want? The body like, oh, and then, but a lifetime in your lips, a lifetime in your soul. Yes. So I get about a lifetime in lips, but a lifetime in your soul. So we are always being alerted of these things. But it's also the sexual misery program that was brought. Colonization and slavery brought a lot of things. And because they understood that the frequency of sex that's why we were godly. That's why we had land and we could do all of those things, because we understood the sacredness of sex. We did not sexualize bodies. We understood that sex is not the body. It's not about the coming together of the body. It's the coming together of the two souls. That's why when men would see women bear breasts, they wouldn't get a hard on. That's a program.
Exactly.
That's a program.
Please don't forget to comment on a woman's period. Please take us through that. Because it has been so demonized and made filthy, unclean.
But remember, let's speak about the system of white supremacy. It's at the top. It's the father of isms and schisms, right? It's the father of toxicity. Even I call it a narcissistic system: common control and domination, manipulation and distortion, deflection and projection. That's the system. So when in order for us to be enslaved, it wasn't like, hey, give us, and we just gave the land, And yes, some parts of history is that our kings and queens played a role in selling our own out, and I think that's where we also lost it, because until we can cleanse ourselves of how we were responsible for our own bloodshed. That's why madi amutu, because the minute there is blood in your hands, as a higher frequency being, when you've got blood on your hands, you are covered with dark. So when they came and then they spoke about, we were already doing some things, but we were not demonizing them. We understood that periods are a sacred time.
Yeah.
So a woman in her period is releasing an energy of a life that could have been. So the body is going through mourning. Because remember, an egg gets released all the time with the hope of like, Max is coming, I'm gonna have a baby, and then what? The baby doesn't happen, the egg breaks, and then there's a bleed. So what is dirty about such a sacred thing? The fact that a life can be made in such a miraculous way. There's nothing dirty, but the body is letting go. The body is releasing, because the body all this time was preparing itself. A week or two was preparing itself, was lining the womb, was preparing for life. Every month, women's womb prepare to carry life monthly. Can you imagine the intensity? So if you don't carry a life, it's like you had an accident. So if you, Max, right now fall and cut yourself badly and you can't walk, will you come to work?
No.
Will you still perform your regular functions?
No.
You'll need time out.
Yeah,
but every month women must go to work.
Show up, yeah.
Women must show up, and instead of understanding that when they were given time off, in ancient times, it was because they understood that the body needs to recover. The body has been through a traumatic experience. So then the body recovers. That's why we have PMS and all these imbalances of hormones, is because we no longer work in harmony with this divine temple that carries life.
Yeah. I'm told we have 8 minutes to go, but there are 3 issues that I quickly want to run through. What was the first one? Okay, spiritual partners. I hear people, there's this, I feel like I had sex.
Okay.
Please comment on
Let's
that.
speak of the 3 so that I can use the 8 minutes.
Okay,
wisely.
yeah, that's the first one. The second one is Tantra. I want your thoughts on Tantra.
Yeah.
Tantric sex, if there's something that we can explore. And the last one is the pleasure that we should embrace as sex. That sex brings the dancing of the souls that has been so demonized as well.
Yeah.
That orata sex, we have not been able to separate the pleasure of it, and many people can enjoy it.
When you love something, you revere it, you treat it well.
Yeah.
So we don't love sex, we lust sex. The reason we lusted is because of traumas that I've explained, including the trauma of people being tied to souls that they would wake up and sleeping with.
Yeah.
Right. So we've made it dirty. So when you fear something, it will keep on chasing you like a skeleton in the closet. So we've made to be fear. It's made to be taboo. Women, orgasm has been tabooed. When you look at people who saying, oh, for example, I'm a squirter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's actually urine. It's not urine. It's your body coming into a joyous moment. Sex is a ceremony.
I love that.
So when you go through a ceremony, there must be an orgasmic state of being where we get to that, Nkomo getting where it's just joy. Nothing exists except that moment. So when we can turn sex into a sacred ceremony, not only 2 bodies, but all of us together, including my ancestors are coming to the ceremony.
Prepare the environment
Prepare the environment.
Light candles,
light incense, play music. Right? And you don't even need to penetrate, because you can find pleasure in those. And that's what deepens connection, not penetration. Penetration sometimes disconnects and violates, but just creating that ceremonial space. And we think it's just for women. Men also required, because men also want to be seen. They want to be felt. When you can say, baby, your eyes, the way you touch me already, will understand. But because the program says you must penetrate, you can actually, and which is Tantra. Tantra says that you can be in a state of orgasm without physical touch.
And heal
and
each other.
That's what sex is about. It's about, remember, we transfer energy to add, not to just take. It's a give and a receive, and it's a give and a receive. So that is, if we look at sex as like we're entering a ceremony, you won't do it when you don't feel like it. You won't force your partner to do it because you have a hard on. You won't, you will listen to your partner's body. At this moment, Even if one slight of my distraction, my husband stops, are you okay?
They can feel the energy,
because that's where we are
shift,
at. Right?
yeah.
That's where we are at. It's no longer, but in order for one to do that, one must have a level of self-awareness. And we cannot be aware of ourselves if we don't clear the baggage that is actually blinding us to see us for who we are. You are not Max. You are not Sam Max is not the man, the black man, the Tswana man, the Sam Max network, the Sam Max Don. All of these things are roles and titles that men have created. But in the eyes of divinity, you are a physical expression of God. And once we can get to seeing each other like that, we'll treat each other with reverence. But we must heal the God wound. The God wound, the religious God, the man-made God, the God of overpowering, dictating, domineering. That's why you find women now also domineering and dictating because of the God wound. You know, it's all of those things. So, Batislwani, Barki, Kitokolo, Urwala, those things do exist. They're not only created, as I said earlier on, it's part of the soul ties. They're not created through through consented sex by sleeping with a vampire. They created through childhood traumas, and sometimes they appear because you have suppressed the memory of when you first got assaulted.
Gogo Dineo. Imagine if you could use sex to heal each other. And I'm sure some of these sexual traumas, we can heal them if we approach it as a ceremony, as a sacred thing. If we can release unwanted energies and connect to the highest state of our spirituality.
If you can say sex is a sacred ceremony where giving of myself equates to what I receive from you, then we'll have reverence for it. When I say that I know what I offer is what I get back in double form. So you'll want to offer purity, you'll want to offer innocence, you'll want to offer just you. So you wouldn't want to offer you and all these other people that you're sleeping with.
One last question, Gogo Dineo. Should one have sex with only one person, or it's about energy?
So
that aligns.
The problem is there's a difference between promiscuity and polygamy, and that's a topic for another day, or polyandry. So unconsented sex is a violation. So when you are sleeping with another partner that I have not consented you to sleep with, and you sleep with me, you violated me. So do you have to sleep with one partner? No. But what is the principle?
You are violating this, what we have.
Because it's a union.
Yes, I get that.
It's a union. So once the union extends and expands, there must be an agreement. Because for this center of this union to be, it was consensual. There was an understanding. There were principles that were made. So when we invite other people on the side, your side dish, your side man, your side woman, you are actually violating me because I didn't consent.
Because I didn't consent to that.
Yeah.
Gogo Dineo, can you please come back to the show? Like this, we can go on and on and on, but thank you very much. But on a serious note, I would really love some time again for you to come back to the show. You are the friend of the show. We love you here.
You see, for me I love topics that also have me to work, not only research, but work on myself. So that I am here hearing what I'm saying, so I'm not miseducating people or misinforming people. So I love conversations like this. They stimulate me. They make me think out of the box, and I hope to the listeners and to the viewers, they've learned something and they'll understand that they're a temple, so they shouldn't allow anyone to come worship in it, because some are demons.
We give thanks, Gogo Dineo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we come to the end of this episode. Very difficult to come to an end of it, and I'm sure you feel the same as well. Please subscribe to this channel so that it can grow. That's the only way we can bring you high-level conversations like this. My name is Sam X. Kgoroeadira.